Welcome to another episode of For the Sake of Heaviness. My name is Merciful Mike, and as always, I'm here with.
What's Balance? Don't you fucking forget it.
I will never,
We
ever
should probably
fucking
edit
forget it.
that, but
No,
whatever.
we're going to leave them in.
It's
Fuck
getting
it. We're going to get banned off YouTube within the first 3 minutes here. Anyway, we've got our good friend Darin McCloskey here with us today. You might see him. He is one half of the Into the Void, a Black Sabbath podcast with our other good friend John Gaffney. You may have seen him on Lair of the Alchemist and Dudes Talking Metal. So, Darin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
greetings,
Excellent.
Good to be
Darren.
here. Huh?
So,
I said greetings.
Greetings, Butch.
it's going to
We're
be a
laughing
good
because we're
episode.
friends. We've known each other for a long time, so this is
Yes.
like
This
something
is
we would probably be doing at a show or at a bar or something, talking about metal. Which is anytime we've ever been together, it's
Yeah,
usually
right.
what we do.
that's
So
that's usually where the conversation goes.
yeah,
So the subject matter for today is the great and almighty Venom.
Arg.
Arg. We've been a little long overdue approaching the subject of Venom, so today is the day. And as a lifelong Venom fan, Darin, you're a perfect special guest to have with us today. So I guess we'll just kind of go around and tell us, how did you discover Venom? When did it first, come into your life, and what was your impressions of Venom? So Darin, go right ahead. We'll start with you.
okay. So around the early '80s, I started getting into rock magazines. I was reading Hit Parader, Cream, Circus, any of the ones I could find at the grocery store, convenience store, and I'm kind of a visual person, so as well as being into the music, I like to see pictures of the band. I like to read articles. I like to get the whole three-dimensional thing going on with the music that I listen to. Um, a little while later, I guess it was like about 1982, uh, the record store in the mall started carrying Kerrang magazine. And I hadn't heard of Kerrang before, but I could see that it was a heavy metal magazine, one that I wasn't familiar of. So um, I picked up an issue, and it's this very issue right here. It has Fish from Marillion on the cover, who I wasn't familiar with at the time. Um, and of course, this magazine is from the UK, so there was a lot of bands that I hadn't heard of. There was quite a few bands that I had heard of, which is what sold me on the magazine. But there's a lot of bands that I hadn't heard of. And as I'm going through the magazine, I happen upon this, which hopefully no glare,
Nice.
which
Yeah.
was my first ever exposure to Venom. And I'm looking at it, and it says the metal album of the year. Well, right there, I'm intrigued. And then I see it has a black metal. This is actually before black metal came out. So this is like a preliminary, early, ad only version of black metal. You can see the logo's a little different. It has like the difference in the M. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at it, and it says featuring, which is the song titles, Black Metal, To Hell and Back, Buried Alive, Raise the Dead, Teacher's Pet, Naughty, Leave Me in Hell, Sacrifice, Heaven's on Fire, Countess Bathory, Don't Burn the Witch, At War with Satan. And then at the bottom, it also says Venom's recent 45 Bloodlust, CW, whatever that means, in nomine Satanas. All right. So as far as satanic rock was concerned, up until this point, there was Motley Crue. I mean, there was a little bit of like Ozzy with Mr. Crowley, but it
Sure.
was pretty scarce. Venom was like blatant, like Satanism in your face, and I was pretty attracted. I was intrigued by that. I was like, okay, well, this is like the next level. And at this time, anyway, I was trying to climb the ladder to heavy music. I just wanted to keep investigating heavy metal and seeing what the next heavy thing was.
Sure.
And I was, at this point, there was a lot yet to discover. So I hadn't really gotten into Motorhead. I'd heard Motorhead, but I hadn't really gotten into them yet. But Venom was now on my radar. I had to hear this band with these song titles, and And there was a review in here a little later in the issue that had a really cool picture of the three of them around a tombstone. But this particular issue, just as an aside, turned me onto a lot of stuff, man. There was a lot of like UK bands that I hadn't heard of that after I got this issue. This is like there's a Cirith Ungol ad in here about that.
Wow.
Anyway, back to Venom. So Venom was now on my radar, but it wasn't the sort of thing that I could easily find at my local record store. So it wasn't until probably about 6 months later or so, a friend of mine in high school had a cousin who was turning him on to like aggressive metal and the heavier stuff, and he was in turn turning me on to it. And he said to me one day, he's like, "Do you like Venom?" And I'm like, "I've never heard Venom, but I've heard of them. Do you have any Venom?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've got I forget what it was. Die Hard." He had the Die Hard, Bursting Out, Acid Queen 12-inch. I said, "Oh my God, I got to borrow it. You have to let me borrow it." He's like, "Okay, I'll bring it in tomorrow." So that was my first Venom. And I took it home and I was like, it was kind of what I expected. I knew it was going to be super heavy. I knew it was going to be like very aggressive, and it was. And I wasn't disappointed. There wasn't, I mean, 1982, I was listening to like, I was into Ozzy and Sabbath. And what was cool about Venom was what attracted me to like Sabbath and Ozzy was like the occult, and I was into horror movies, and Sabbath and Ozzy went so far with it, but it was always like, but we're just having fun. But Venom, I wasn't sure. Venom, I was like, I think these dudes really worship the devil. So I was kind of like a little bit precautious, but I was also like, well, so what? Like I'm going to get into like, you know, black magic or anything, and it's kind of fun. It's like a horror movie. And as time went on, it was pretty obvious that they weren't really serious, but it was all for shock effect. And it coupled really well with the sound of the music because it was like aggressive lyrics, aggressive image that no one else was doing, at least to this extent. And the
Right.
music, which coupled well with it, which again, I mean, I guess you could kind of compare them to Motorhead, but Venom were even heavier than Motorhead. I mean, it was just raw. And they really couldn't play very well, which added to the whole thing because I mean the drums were off time, the bass was out of tune, the guitars were really cool. I mean, I had to have something that I could kind of relate to what I was familiar with before, and I really liked the riffs on especially Bursting Out. I like Bursting Out. I Die Hard is awesome. So after I heard that, then I went on and I went on a mission to get as much Venom as I could find, and there was the import section at the mall had um I think it had Welcome to Hell, so I got that, and that was even more raw. That was a little bit harder for me to get into, and then I borrowed Black Metal off another friend of a friend. So I mean, it was like really trying to. It was I had to go through to great lengths to get all this Venom stuff, but I had to have it. I was like, oh my God, I got to hear more Venom. And so by 1983, I was like Venom was like I was all about Venom. I painted Welcome to Hell on the back of my jean jacket, and yeah, I was Venom made a big impression, and it was pretty much my gateway. That was the thing. I'm like, if I could get into Venom, then I can listen to anything because this is the heaviest shit that I've ever heard before, and I loved it. I loved Cronus's vocals. Even though the music wasn't necessarily well executed, I just loved the energy, the rawness to it. It's what I wanted to hear. I mean, I wanted to hear something that was extreme. I was kind of tired of hearing like, I mean, I liked it, but I was kind of tired of hearing like the polished
Yeah.
commercial metal. I mean, I still liked it, but I was like, doesn't have the same impact. It doesn't have the same thrill. So Venom definitely really provided me with that next level, that next step up. And so that's how I got into them.
Awesome. Yeah, that first initial when you hear them, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
All right, Butch, how about you?
Well, my story is the exact opposite of Darren's in a lot of ways. I don't know if the opposite's the right word, but my first exposure to them was in two places. It was in the magazines. Unfortunately, we didn't really have a record store that I was aware of anyway. When I was a kid, 12, 13, 11, like just first getting into metal and realizing that music was my like something that I really loved. I went to record stores, like there was a chain called the Listening Booth.
Yeah, we had those around
Yeah,
my way.
yeah, that was big in that, like in that Eastern PA there. And like our record, the mall I went to, Lehigh Mall, actually had three record stores at one point, which is it's wild to think about that now with
Right.
how shit is now. I
Yeah.
mean, you go to a mall, you won't see a record store now unless it's like some wonky mall and there's some you know stores in there that just let the space and
Yeah.
but like they didn't have like the listening booth didn't have magazines and stuff like that. So I did manage to get, there were a couple issues of Cream that I had, and I had seen some issues of Kerrang. Um, and then so I'd
What
seen
year
it
was
like pick.
what
Oh,
year was this? Not to interrupt.
this is like it's got to be around 82, 83, probably leaning
Okay.
towards 83 when I was like 12. Um, because that's when I really started like buying, getting into buying records, and I was getting past the just buying shit that I saw on MTV phase. Like I discovered bands through that, and then as I got into junior high and started like buying music magazines, you'd read about bands and then go out and grab stuff, and then you'd run into especially once I got to junior high. Um, I had friends that had older brothers that were like, oh, yeah, I remember this kid Pat had a locker right next to mine, and he would come and say, have you checked out this band? Have you checked out this band? Yeah, but like the friend group I had, that like no one was really into like heavier stuff yet. So my exposure to Venom was mostly just through like pictures, and the listening booth had an import section.
Yeah.
So I used to flip through the records there. So and initially, like back in the day, that's where you'd find stuff like the Rat EP and all the stuff that wasn't like mainstream that was coming in from Europe or wherever was in this section, and it was mostly
Yep.
like all this metal, like it was Merciful Fate and
Mhm.
Venom and shit like that, and like I would look at these albums. I was fascinated by all the different album covers, all
Yeah.
these different bands, and some of them, like honestly, I know I've told this story before, but I watched The Exorcist when I was much too young. That and
Me
The
too.
Omen, and
We all did.
I was scared to death of anything diabolical.
Yeah.
Anything to deal with
Yeah.
the devil scared me. So and I'm like Darin said, you're seeing these album covers, and I'm seeing this picture of these bands, and I'm seeing the Baphomet and the cover of Einklein Knock Music back there, and that
Yeah.
stage show,
Yeah.
the freaking big demon behind them, and the Merciful Fate record covers. Like I've always, I've said, if I've said it once, I said it a zillion times, that the back cover terrified me. The picture of King Diamond with the smoke and the glass, and
Mhm.
uh, so I was scared, like just of the image. I couldn't even conceive of what their music sounded like, and I actually didn't hear Venom's music until probably several years later. It was all an image thing for me at first, just to see them, and I knew these guys are heavy, and I'm scared of these guys because they are Satanists. And it's not like I'm a super Christian or anything like that either. Not even at the time. Like I was just like terrified. Like it was
Yeah.
just something.
Yeah.
It was one of those things.
Right.
It sounds weird now saying at 13 I was terrified, but you mean I was still pulling open my shower curtain to make sure that there weren't demons behind there trying to get me, even at that
Yeah.
age. So all that shit scared me. And throw Slayer, the first album, and that picture of them where they still had the eye black on and the with the
Yeah.
upside down cross and
Yeah.
Possessed, like all that stuff scared the shit out of me. So I actually didn't hear most of these bands until I started listening to college radio. Um, and there was a show out of Bethlehem that played thrash metal, and so this is where I started getting introduced to bands outside of Metallica. Metallica, actually, I'd heard on mainstream radio stations, albeit on the metal shows. Although I swear I heard Metallica in regular rotation on WZZO or WYSP, Fade to Black. But and that's where I heard, the metal shows are where I heard like Motorhead for the first time. I heard Ace of Spades for the first time on. Actually, part of it was just a commercial for a concert down in Philly, but where they played part of Ace of Spades. And so on I would listen to the thrash show just to see what was what, and they were playing like a lot of it. Honestly, like it's funny now because the vocal seems so extreme to me at the time. So all of that stuff, I was like, I don't know about this, man. And I used to like think it was funny. I would like get my sister's 2 years younger than me, and I'd hand her the phone. I'd be like, call up the radio station and ask them to play Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue, just to like be like, because it's a thrash show, and I'm just like, call and be annoying. Because I just thought there was something funny about a little kid calling. Anyway, the point was none of that stuff grabbed me right away. It wasn't until I got to Megatherion that I started getting a little bit accustomed to like what at the time I considered brutal vocals. And then a friend of mine also had made a tape for me of he and I were both into Metallica, but then he was more into it got to be he was more into Slayer. He didn't even want to hear about Metallica once he knew about Slayer, and he started getting their stuff. And he made me a tape that had like it was one of those TDK 90s or Memorex tape. It was a yellow Memorex tape, actually, 90-minute tape filled with Slayer. So I would listen to that, and most of it at the time, I was like, it's a little bit heavy for me at the time. But I started like the riffs would start to catch me after a while, like Postmortem and the breakdown in the middle of Angel of Death. And so, but Venom at the time, like, never really caught me. I always just saw them as like on the outskirts of, these guys that's probably too extreme for me. I didn't know anyone that really listened to them. So I just heard bits and pieces, and I'm like, that's not for me. I don't care for that. And years later, when I finally did start like having more access to different things, you're working in a CD store, you're buying used stuff, and your friends let you borrow stuff. And I heard Venom. I was like, man, I don't get it because I knew like they were, the name was big, like they were like one of those bands in the underground that was like very influential. And I'm like, I don't get it. They can't play, they can't sing. The songs were, to me at the time, I'm like, these songs aren't great at all. Like I don't understand it. What is it about this? So it's like it took years for me to finally like they were like kind of an acquired taste to the point where honestly, like I told you guys before the show started, it's like the repeated listings of these records over the last, couple months and the lead up to this even has like, over the years, certain songs would catch me. Like I've liked In League with Satan for years. It's just like it catch you. I just love it. So even though it's so primitive sounding, like it's so heavy and Bursting Out was I got introduced to Bursting Out through an Entombed cover. And it's just like picking up, there's certain songs here and there I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's just like a respect thing too. It's like, oh man, these dudes are, been doing this they've influenced so many people. There must be something about it and so anyway, like I said, like in these repeated listenings, I'm like finding myself like, I'm not going to say it's toe tapping stuff like that, but it's, it's catching me. Like some of it is like, I'm like, wow, I'm digging this now. So I'm like a very late bloomer to Venom. I'm not about to throw them into my top 100 or anything like that, but I get like the appeal that they had because, and I especially get their influence. I mean, you can see it in all kind of stuff in thrash and black metal and death metal. And they're just one of those bands like I've always had to acknowledge whether I like them or not. Bands like them and Possessed like are super important to metal while maybe not being exactly for me. But I don't know. I like that those dudes are still, Kronos is still going, and it's cool that, and I think the stuff is a lot more. There's something like I can lock into the fun of it now too, as an adult, as opposed to when I was a kid and thought it was so serious. Like now I'm like, oh, it was a goof, really. I mean, it was an image thing, and like Darin was saying, there's like a fun to it, which sounds weird to say for something that, but it's like you look at it's so over the top
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's like nothing but fun. So
Yeah.
that's my long-winded how I didn't get into Venom until I was 54
Better late than never.
You know,
right?
story.
you're right. I mean, Venom was highly influential. I mean, Metallica was doing Venom covers. Slayer was doing Venom covers. Voivod was doing Venom covers on like their first demos or early shows and things like that. But um, they were also influencing the crust punk. I mean,
Yeah.
they were one of the reasons that crust punk came about. Yeah, Amoebics, they kind of sound like Venom, more of a punk version of Venom.
That's
So
a
I
good
mean,
point.
their influence for three dudes that I mean couldn't play very well, um, and had crappy productions on their records. I mean, they made a hell of an impression, which is pretty unbelievable. But once you get it, once it kind of like clicks, then you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for some people, it just doesn't. It either does or it doesn't. And if it does, you love it. And if it doesn't, you absolutely despise it. You don't want it anywhere near you. I mean, I had
Yeah.
friends that were like, just hated it. Oh, it sucks. I'm like, oh man, you don't get it.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I don't. I don't want to get it. Keep it away from me. But
Yeah.
for those of us that do, I don't.
Casual
I
Venom fans
still
are
love
few and far between.
Yeah.
it.
One of the things that intrigued me too about them was the man. You'd see the pictures in some of the magazines, or like seeing the records in the stores when there's pictures of the stage show. Being a big Kiss fan, like I was impressed by. I'm like, wow, these guys must be
Yeah.
huge. They're
Yep.
like
Well, that's the
huge
thing.
overseas. They're gigantic. This looks like a Kiss. They must be like one
Exactly.
of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah.
They were Mantis, the guitar player, was a huge Kiss fan. And when they got together, that's what they wanted to do. They worshipped Kiss, and they wanted to. Well, I don't know if Cronus did, but Mantis definitely did.
Yeah.
What was it, Jeff? Is it Jeff Dunn? Is that his real name? Jeff
Yeah. I
Dunn.
think it's Jeff Dunn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even now, you see him. He's always wearing Kiss shirts and stuff. But that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a show that, with the same ideology that Paul and Gene had. We want to be the band that if we were fans, we'd want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Venom went. We were like, they didn't start out, they didn't like pay their dues, so to speak. They didn't hit the clubs. They just started off like the first show was at Hammersmith.
Yeah.
And they bought all the pyrotechnics and everything. And the first show was just like bombastic,
Yeah.
like a Kiss show. And that was their big influence, oddly enough, was Kiss. Um, and then that's what they set out to do, is to try to make their whole thing larger than life, and they did for the most part. I mean, even when they did the Studio 54 video, what was it called? Oh,
Ultimate Revenge.
Ultimate Revenge. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot that. Um, Ultimate Revenge. I mean, they just you had. I think the other bands were at Studio 54, but the Venom portion was recorded at Hammersmith, the
Yeah.
Hammersmith Odeon, and it's a huge stage, and the drum riser is like 8 feet tall, and they've got
Yeah.
explosives and stuff. And the other bands were playing like in this club,
Club.
basically a nightclub. So it was like, wow. And at one point, I was like, what did I miss? How did this band get so big? Well, it was kind of like an illusion, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
They wanted you to think that they were ahead of their time, or they were just this band that was already established from the minute they stepped foot on stage. I mean, even their appearances. I mean, they dressed. I mean, they weren't like coming out like Metallica or Slayer or Exodus. I mean, they were coming out. They had like leather and chains and spikes and studs, and I mean, they just went all in on it and delivered it with confidence. And I guess that's what you got to do, because I mean, they had a lot of people convinced that they
Oh
were
yeah.
like, I mean, even when they started out, the press, you would think the press would hate them, but the press was like curious. They were like fascinated by Venom,
Yeah.
and they wanted to hear it. They wanted them to like play. They started. There was a demo that circulated. They heard it. It was horrible, but they liked it. because of how it pushed the boundaries of conventional heavy metal. And then, the members of Venom started talking about what they're going to do when they get on stage, and everybody wanted to see this. And they had a lot of support from the press, which you would think is strange because, I mean, even when Sabbath started out, I mean, Sabbath was a band that was kind of extreme, and there was a lot of hype around them, but not from the press. The press hated them.
Yeah.
The press loved Venom for some reason. And that was one of the things that really kickstarted them into gear was people, the kids, the punters, as they would say,
Yeah.
would read the articles in the magazines and be like, and it was, the press actually helped get the hype rolling along.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can still remember an interview that I read about, and I forget if it was Kronos or Mantis or anyway, one of the three of them, obviously, said in the interview, he brought it, he said they were big Kiss fans, and he said that Kiss had that, especially like Gene had that image, that dark kind of
Mhm.
image. But I remember them specifically saying the lyrics never married up to the image. He said they were singing about naked ladies and
Right.
stuff like
Partying.
that. So they took that, they wanted to do the image and then take it further with the
Yeah.
lyrically, like into like something that was like evil.
Right.
So
Yeah, it was a natural progression. I mean, even Kiss kind of dabbled, but there's no way that Kiss could have gotten away, even if they had the idea to do what Venom were doing and take their music and make it marry their image a little bit more. I mean, their music, Kiss's music, as we all know, is pretty conventional pop, hard rock,
Hmm.
But the image was what set them apart, and that's about as far as I think they could have gone. I think that's about as much as they could have gotten away with in the time that they came out. But they already put the flag in. So now anybody who was to do something had to take it further. And
Yeah.
Sabbath were also, well, Sabbath was before Kiss, but one of the things to your point about what Venom said about Kiss was like, oh, their image was great, but the lyrics were about naked ladies and stuff. Well, they kind of had a similar attitude about Sabbath. When the Sabbath was Black Sabbath was more horror movie inspired, it had that vibe to it. But Cronus said he was disappointed when in the song Black Sabbath and when Ozzy said, "Oh no, no, please God help
Yeah.
me." Tonight that's not how I want it. I want him to be worshiping the devil. The devil's coming and he's like, yeah, he's into it. Yeah, so that's what and then Venom also. So they like took the bombastic stage showmanship of Kiss and I guess the lyrical vibe, the horror element, the extreme element of Black Sabbath, and married the two things into Venom,
Yeah.
and that's how that came out. They were pushing the envelope a little bit further from the stuff that they grew up listening to, the stuff that they were influenced by.
Good point.
Worked.
I was a little bit behind. I'm 2 years younger than you, Darin. So I was a couple of years behind everything. And again, I was aware of the name before I was aware or heard the music. We were knee deep in Metallica and we would see Lars wear Venom shirts and we're always like, who is that? And
Poser.
then, yeah,
No, no, he wasn't.
poser.
Everybody like to think that he is, but no, he wasn't.
But, it opened the door. We're like, who is this? Who is this? And like you guys said too, we started getting into magazines and Circus just wasn't cutting it anymore. Motley Crue Shot Out the Devil was great, and we always gravitated toward the scary devil worshiping stuff. I'm still a sucker for that shit. But up to that point, yeah, Motley Crue was about where it was at. And then we started getting, these hints of Venom and Venom. And then we had a record store that carried Metal Forces. Kerrang was really hit or miss with. We had Metal Forces, which they also really liked Venom a lot too. So we would see it in there, and we'd see the Welcome to Hell, and we'd see black metal. But this was '85 when I finally, had the epiphany to get into it, and Possessed had just come out. And I remember when we finally did see the cover for that, I thought it was the most evil shit I'd ever seen because I was like, oh man, this is complete Satan worship. But look at it's children. They're getting children to worship the
Yeah.
devil. And it was that negative, photograph on the front that just looked fucking
Yeah.
scary. So we were like, oh, we got to get that, run down. And I can't remember if I got it. We had an independent store called Grand Central that had all kinds of stuff and they did their best. Yep, you got it. They did
Yeah,
their best to
the
keep all the import.
combat and the neat versions.
Yep,
I think they're both pretty neat.
they are. So we got that, and Hell Awaits had come. I can't remember if it came out before or after. I know both were the same year in '85. Anyway, we were like, this is like some evil shit. And there was a radio station in Chicago, WVVX, that really late nights. I don't even remember. It was like Thursdays, and I could barely ever get the station in unless it was raining. Then I could tune it in. And they actually had a radio ad for the Possessed album. And that was the very first time I heard a little bit. And I think it was Flytrap was on the bed of it when they were advertising for it. So when we finally got the album, I was like, oh, here it is. I'm finally going to hear this. And Possessed stands out a little bit more as I've always said it's a little bit more punky than the other three, but I was just immersed in this. And we thought this is the greatest album ever. It's so evil. And then I don't know, we heard some rumor that like Kronos eats babies and he would break into hospitals and steal babies.
Yeah,
Just, so we
true.
were, yeah, of course it is. So we were like, we were just into this whole Venom culture, for lack of a better term. And kind of like you too. Then it was like, I was writing Venom logos on my, grocery bag, book covers in school and denim jackets. Everything was Venom, Venom, Venom. And that really turned us into going back because we would always see it like a Metal Mania, and then I think it was Metal Maniacs. I can't remember the transition when that all changed, but Combat Records always had like those full page ads, and you'd see all the albums, and there was always the Venom stuff in there too. I was always like, oh, I gotta check that out. So yeah, when we finally got it, it was like, and like you said, Darren, it was like, this is next level shit. This is where we need to go. And
Yeah,
I know, and away we went. It was like we were, Metallica was the biggest thing, and Exodus and stuff. But Venom was just, it was evil, it was rough, it was raw, it was gritty, it was scary. It was almost like almost kind of like forbidden. It's like, should I really have this? And I, I can't remember if it was inside the tape of Possessed. I could be totally goofing this up with something else, but it said something about backwards messages. So we taped Possessed onto like an old Kmart tape or an old TDK. And then you guys might have done this too. So we'd unscrew it and you take the reels and you flip them over and then you put it all back together and you put it in your tape deck and it'll play it backwards. So we would sit and we'd listen and we'd be like, oh, I think I heard that. Oh, it said
what could they possibly say backwards that they weren't saying?
saying
Yeah,
forward. I know.
seriously.
But we were like, this has got to be even more evil backwards. So we're
Praise Jesus.
trying to listen to that. Yeah, right. Kronos eats babies. I don't know.
Drink the
So,
vomit of the priest. I mean, it's on the back of their album cover.
but musically, I dug it. And just like both of you said too, my first thing was like, Abaddon can't keep time to save his life. He was just all over the place. It was a mess, but it worked somehow. Nobody was, a prodigy at their instrument or anything, but just this big mess together, it just worked for some reason. And we ran with it. It was just so good. It was so new. And then, like I said, and then Hell Awaits came not too long after. And then, of course, I went wild with Merciful Fate and just, as much evil and as much as I could up the level of the evilness, that was all the better for me. So thank you, Venom.
Yeah, yeah. And you could hear Venom in a lot of things. Like Slayer really took off too, and you could hear when the Haunting the Chapel EP came out, Chemical Warfare. You could hear Tom kind of sounding like Chemical Warfare.
Like Kronos,
He had
yeah.
like that, just like Cronus sound in his voice. I mean, and I guess if you were in an extreme metal band and you were trying to continue to progress along that way, I mean, who do you look to? I mean, definitely, I mean, Possessed or Venom,
Yeah.
because I mean, there was just like no F's given as far as like where
No.
some bands would be like, oh no, we can't do that. That would be commercial suicide. Venom, obviously, we're just like, who cares? We're gonna go for it. It was over the top, over the top.
What was
And
the
then
record
other
label that
bands,
sent them that letter that was typed out
yeah,
like
Oh, is
fuck
it fuck you?
fuck you, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that's real supposedly because you have the Venom box set too, right, Mike?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever read the book that comes in there? It's actually pretty informative. There's
It
a
that's
lot
a
of
great book.
content in there,
Yeah. Yeah, Butch, you
and it
might want to just
shows.
pick up that box set. It's worth it. It's well worth it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
All right, so there's our first impressions and how we all got into Venom. Similar stories, very good stuff. We're gonna take the four classic albums and we're gonna rank them 1 through 4. So since we're only doing four, I guess we can just each go around one at a time and we'll see where they fall. Darin, you're up.
Okay. Number one for me is definitely At War with Satan. I love At War with Satan. The production quality is bumped up quite a few notches. The playing's the same, but because the production's a little bit better, I think it's a little bit more palatable. But the songs are great. Well, I mean, it can't be overlooked that side one is a 22-minute epic
Yeah, sure.
of like the battle between the angels and demons, and
Right.
yeah, I mean it, and it's so many different progressions. It's really well done. I mean, I I did not see that coming. But at the end of Black Metal, there's a
Right.
little intro,
Yeah.
you know, and that kind of sets the pace. But then I'm like, wow, I had no idea that they were going to take that concept and run with it over an entire album side.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, there was a lot of stop and starts, and it was all pieced together in the studio. But the way listening to it, it's like it's really, really, really good. And oddly enough, Cronus, I read in that book we were just talking about that comes with the box set. Cronus said that he was inspired by Rush 2112, which is funny because I mean it's a long way away from 2112, but you can see how it was an ambitious undertaking
Yeah.
considering where they were coming from up to this point, and it's really well executed. The B side are some of my favorite Venom songs. Let me just grab it here. I've got Genocide. I know is definitely one of my favorites.
Hmm.
Of course, they're not even on the back cover. Rip Ride, Cry
Cry
Wolf.
Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love all of side one and side two. I still love Genocide. Well, it kicks off at Rip Ride, and that's a killer.
Yeah.
But Genocide is probably one of my all-time favorite Venom tunes. Stand Up and Count It is kind of punkish. Women, Leather, and Hell. That's just even more punk rock. And then at the very end, the last song is "Arg," just
Arr.
Butch
noise,
Butch loves
but
that song.
it puts the cherry on the top. Butch loves that song. Yeah, it's a good one. But I mean, after where they had gone with this, with all of a sudden one being, the concept and how relatively well executed it is, and then the first three songs on side two, I think that they could definitely take a little bit of a break and
Yeah.
get kind of crazy and extreme. All right, so War with Satan is my number one. Number two is definitely Black Metal. It's a phenomenal album. Um, what can you say about Black Metal? Everybody, yeah, I mean, it created a whole
Yeah.
genre of music was created around Black Metal. Even the name Black Metal was
Right.
Black Metal. The imagery, it was my first um, taste of Venom, not from that album, but the singles that followed: Die Hard, Bursting Out, Acid Queen. It's all from the same sessions.
Hmm.
Um, so as far as full length albums go, Black Metal would be my number two. Number three is Welcome to Hell. Production's very raw. The songs are good, relatively speaking. There's like quite a few songs. Witching Hour,
Yeah.
awesome song. Voivod's covered it. Slayer's covered it. Who knows who else has covered it? But those are the two big ones that I can think of. Um, what else is there? Sons of Satan, Poison. I mean, it's a great album. Last for me is Possessed, and I don't think I have a couple couple things about this album that bother me. One is the mix. The mix is really, really muddy, and they've never had, other than that War with Satan, Welcome to Hell and Black Metal don't have very good productions. But this one, it's just too
Yeah.
crowded. It sounds crowded. There's too much going on. It's hard to really discern the guitar and the bass. In some ways, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Born Again by Black Sabbath. It has that kind of like murky quality to it. But the other thing is, I think there's too many songs. If they took a couple songs off, and they were Venom was another one of those bands that were like very prolific with the singles. They put out an album, and then a couple weeks later, they'd have three songs on a single, 12
Yeah.
inch, like Manitou or Warhead. Then they weren't just like throwaway tracks. Warhead is an awesome Venom
Right.
song, and
Right.
that was on a 12-inch EP.
Die Hard too.
So I mean, they could have done, and then they did. They did that with Possessed. They had what? They had Nightmare. That was a,
Yep.
a single that came out after the album. Nightmare's a great song. They could have taken a couple songs off of Possessed, give it a little bit more room. It's killer listening to that. Killer on the ears listening to it on vinyl because it's so compressed.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that there's some good songs on it. I like Fly Trap. Um, Too Loud for the Crowd is cool. Um, Satanicist.
Yeah.
The title track is cool. I mean, overall, I mean, it really there's a couple songs I could do without, and those are probably the ones that you should probably just discard it altogether. But there's a couple songs they could have just put out that were strong enough that could have made pretty decent singles. So that's why Possessed falls dead last for me. I just think that of all of those, it's probably the weakest one. After that, I mean, what do we have? Calm Before the Storm.
Yep.
That was kind of a joke, you know. I mean, I think they lost the plot. I mean, again, referencing that book, the three members of Venom look back on Possessed and think that they weren't really into it at the time they were even recording it. They lost the plot. They
Yep.
thought it was just kind of going by the numbers or just doing it to do it. Um, I get the height of their creativity, their creative high point was probably black metal into At War with Satan, and it definitely shows. So I mean, basically, the last thing that they could do together was Possessed, and after that, I mean, it just all kind of blew apart.
Yep.
Although when Tony Dolan came back in the late '80s, early '90s, that stuff was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about like the first four albums, so that's my top four. Got them there.
All right. All right, Butch. What do you got?
All right. I'll do mine in reverse order. Darin was just talking about Possessed. Honestly, I probably don't have as much to add to these as either of the two of you will, because I'm not as experienced in the wiles and ways of Venom. But I do like I can't I've listened to them many times now, and my order has been pretty much unchanged for the first. So last for me is Possessed. I think it's got a few good songs on it. I don't think there's anything like terrible with it. I agree the production's kind of murky, and it just feels like, I don't know. It does feel uninspired. It just feels like it's not as sharp. Like the writing's not as. I can't even believe I'm saying some of this stuff about Venom, because for years I was like, oh, those guys can't, play or write their way out of a wet paper bag. But here we're talking about their writing skills, and I don't know. It just feels kind of like, but it's not. It doesn't feel as like heavy as it should. Like as the three before it. Like it feels kind of neutered a little bit in some ways. I do think a couple of the singles that came out contemporaneously to that record are
Mm-hmm.
are pretty good. I like Nightmare. I think is a really good song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Possessed to be last for me. It's third for me is At War with Satan. And I really like side one. I like that song. It's like I remember hearing that. I had a roommate that had that on cassette, so I remember listening to it back. This is 30 years ago when I was in college, and needless to say, I didn't appreciate it as much back then. But I really like. The more I listen to side one, there, I think it's pretty ambitious for a band that is their playing is pretty threadbare, but I think it's pretty cool and pretty well done. To me, though, the reason I have it at number three is, and maybe it's just because I don't have the years of listening to all these records, like to like have grown on me one way or the other. To me, side B, on the other hand, see, like pales compared to the first one. It just that's just me. I feel like it feels like one of those things where it seems like they spent a lot of time on the first one, on the first side, making that sound really good, and then the other songs are like just don't live up to it. To me, it's like a. I think the sound quality on it though is on that record. I think the production on it's really good compared to the other three.
Yeah.
So that's number three for me. Again, I think it's a solid album. I just, for whatever reason, side two just hasn't grabbed me as much. Um, Number two for me is black metal. Uh, I think it's good. There's definitely great songs on there. The production's definitely better than the first one. Um, I'm trying to. Why is this not? Come on now. I like the title track a lot. Raise the Dead is cool. I like Sacrifice. Countess Bathory is cool. I do love. I remember I was talking to Mike about this within the last few weeks. That because I sometimes these things get reissued. So when I'm making my playlist, I just want to make sure like I'm dealing with the album as it was released. And I'm like, do they mean to put that at war with Satan the little intro? Did they know? I'm like, did they know they were going to do that next record that way that they put the intro here, which I thought is pretty clever if they were already ahead of themselves. But
Yeah.
Hell
yeah,
of
I
a
mean, black
marketing.
metal I think is it's a cool record. And number one for me is Welcome to Hell. I go figure with me. You figure like me knowing myself that it would be maybe my least favorite because it sounds like shit. The playing is all over the place. Abaddon's like just willy nilly hit the drums. They sound like wet cardboard boxes, but it's fun. Like there's just something fun about that record. I think the songs are, especially I was talking about this earlier, just like freaking In League with Satan alone is. I was singing that to my wife earlier. What are you doing? I'm like, In League with Satan.
I'm
And
serenading you.
Evil in
In
league
league
with
yeah,
with
In League with
Satan.
Satan.
Satan. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
It's a good one.
I just enjoy it, man. I don't know what it is about it. It's got like a, for me, I don't know. It's like when I just have fun with it. It's like it's just like it's kind of like a satanic Motorhead kind of vibe or whatever for me. I
Sure.
really, I really like Live Like an Angel. Um Angel Dust is great. Um Sons of Satan is good.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like these are like I just enjoy the record despite all the boxes in my head tell me I shouldn't like it as much as I do, but I do, and that's why it's like a couple of these records are definitely on my list. I'll have to look at that box set and see if I can get it at a reasonable price somewhere. Otherwise, I'll just be buying them individually. But yeah, that's my. I just go back in order from the first one through the fourth in that order. Number one, Welcome to Hell, and number four, Possessed.
Cool.
Maybe ask me in a year. Maybe some of that'll switch. See if there's some
I'll check
movement.
back with you. We'll circle back.
We'll mark this day down and then we'll schedule the show for a year from now and we'll see where we're at.
Venom, the follow up. I'll be back. I'll come back like Calm Before the Storm is my favorite.
Carved in stone.
Yeah, carved. I had Carved in Stone at one time on CD.
Not
I
bad.
bought that. It's all right.
Not good
It's not
either.
Yeah.
All
Ain't
right.
half bad. It ain't half good.
It ain't half good. I'll go reverse too. I'll start with four. And your number one, Butch, is my number four. And I
Damn.
mean, these are fairly interchangeable, I guess. But yeah, it's rough, it's ugly, it's fugly. But
So am
yeah,
I, but you love me.
so's the guy in the mirror over there too. But In League with Satan, Red Light Fever, Poison, like we've just have gone over this. Sons of Satan is great. It's perfect starting point, and it's a good realization point about what's to come eventually. So, my number three is At War with Satan. There's a couple of reasons. I do agree. I think out of the four, this is probably the best sounding one, production wise. Um, I agree with what you said too, Butch. Side two is just lackluster. It's like they blew their wad on side one, and they were like, "Oh, we got a whole nother side here. We got to do something with." So, I mean, there's parts that are good, but the thing that disappointed me the most with this is that that little teaser at the end of Black Metal sounded so good and so heavy. I was like, "Oh shit!" So then when I got At War with Satan, I was immediately kind of disappointed because the tone was totally different than the intro that was on Black Metal. So right away I was like, "Ah." And to my ear, it's a little bit quicker too. It's like it didn't have that heavy pace. So I was like, okay, this is a little different, but okay, it's different but the same. So we'll go with it. But that kind of bummed me out and kind of took a little bit of the wind out of my sail on At War with Satan. Still awesome. Um, Number two is Possessed, and there's a lot of that was my entry point. So of course there's a lot of the childhood memory stuff that goes back with that, and with the first little band I got in playing in my parents' basement, we were trying our best to play Flytrap and just anything that sounded like Venom. We'd make up the dumbest choruses and just go to town, and it was fun. But just the shock value from that cover, that'll always stick with me. Even though it's probably, you can ask anybody out there what's the scariest Venom album cover. That's probably the last one they're going to mention. But for me, that one struck me. And then number one, for obvious reasons, Black Metal. I mean, it's stone cold classic. It's influenced everything from bands to genres to everything else. And I think that was their zenith. I think that was their highest point. I always we always kind of made fun of Sacrifice because we were like, Kronos ran out of ideas for lyrics, so I'm just gonna spell it out for you.
Yeah.
SACRIFICE.
SACRIFICE.
Sacrifice. So that was always kind of funny when that song would come on. We were like, yeah, that's the spell it out song. All right. But yeah, Acid Queen, Bloodlust, Buried Alive could possibly be my favorite Venom song. Or Countess Bathory. Those two could be interchangeable, but you go up and down the list there, and then the singles that came out afterwards too. That was their high point when it came to writing and composing. So Black Metal is number
I mean,
one.
their high point of writing wasn't "arg."
Sure, it
I like
was.
how
There you go.
on every album there had to be a sex song. So
Yeah,
on Welcome
Teacher's
to Hell there
Pet.
was
Yeah,
I guess it would be Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil, right? I think
yeah,
Black Metal was definitely Teacher's Pet.
yeah.
Um, Women Leather in Hell on At War with
Or
Satan,
Satan.
and there's a couple of them actually on Possessed, but
Yeah.
Warrior. I guess Warrior is the most overtly sexual, but it was like Satan and sex,
Satanic sex.
mostly
All right.
Satan, and then a little sex to balance it out, like kind of like
Yeah, Voyeur.
curve the edge a little bit.
Good stuff.
God love Venom.
Gotta love Venom. Absolutely. I never get tired of listening to him either. I pop these on all the time. So,
The singles, I mean, if we were to get into like ranking the singles, I mean, like I said, some of the singles are incredible. And you know what? So I had a couple opportunities to see Venom back in the day, but it was either on a weeknight or whatever the reasons were, and I didn't get to see them as a three piece. But I did see with Mantis, Abaddon, and Tony Dolan
Venom Inc.
when they came around for that Ave album, which I like it a lot. I remember we were talking because we were doing the Chevy. Was it the Chevy tour we were
Yep.
doing at the
Hmm.
time?
Yep.
Yeah. And and I said, "Oh yeah, cool. I got the Venoms waiting for me at home." And you're like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm
I
pretty
heard mixed
optimistic.
reviews, and then I know when you finally
I
got
love
it.
it. I think
Yeah,
it's
you're like, dude, this is pretty good.
yeah. I still listen to it. I think it's really good. The guitar, I mean, it's not. It can be Venom without Cronus, but it can't be Venom without Mantis.
Yeah.
Can't be Venom without Jeff. That's the guitar
Yeah.
that I think is really essential to having that sound. And he's all over the album. Tony Dolan does a great job of like selling the lyrics, and the lyrics are satanic, of course, and maybe a little bit more in some songs a little socially relevant, I guess, in a negative way. But anyway, so then I that was the time I saw Venom, and man, they were playing like Manitou, and I was just like loving it. It was like
Yeah.
sounded good. I was right up front. Um, and those songs, those single songs, I mean, Warhead, wow, what an incredible song. Die Hard,
Die
Manitou,
Hard's great.
Nightmare,
Yeah. Die Hard's
huh?
great. Die
I
Hard's
Die
said
Hard,
Die
yeah.
Hard's
awesome.
great.
Acid Queen. I mean, the singles were
Bloodlust.
Bloodlust. Yeah, yeah, Bloodlust is awesome too. And if you get the Italian version of Black Metal, Bloodlust is on side two. But the original version, I think the Combat version has it on there too, if I'm not sure, if I'm not mistaken. But the original version, the UK version, doesn't have Bloodlust because that was a separate single.
Yeah.
So you had to buy Black Metal and you had to buy the single for Bloodlust, which is like weird because why? I mean, obviously in some pressings they put it on the album, but when they first released it, why didn't they put it on the album? I mean, it's strange. But they were
Actually,
like
I thought
definitely
they
a
were the
band that
Beatles.
was, yeah.
speaking of that though, too,
Venom was a
just in
band that
case.
was like really prolific with the singles, and it's it was just
Oh,
kind of
big
weird.
time. Butch, in case you do get the box set, Darin, you pointed this out to me. Didn't they put out like an addendum album to the box set with all the singles on it that aren't included in the box set? Didn't, I think that was you that told me about that.
Yeah, I think well, there's a lot of the single songs, but I think it's just like a Cliff Notes version of the box set.
Okay.
Um,
But it
I
did
think. I mean,
include,
I have it here. I don't really. Yeah, I got that record too. Maybe at the time I was more familiar with it than I am now.
because just
But
for instance, like Die Hard is not in the box set, but it is on that extra release that they put out.
right,
And I think there's a
yeah.
couple other
Okay,
ones
so
on
yeah,
there.
that was the purpose of that was to make a compilation of the popular singles,
Yeah. Okay.
Die Hard, Warhead, because I mean, oh, then the assaults, Canadian Assault,
Yep.
American
Yeah.
Assault. I mean, they were just like pumping these things out. But Canadian Assault, I got before I got the Manitou 12-inch. So the song Woman I heard on Canadian Assault, and I love that song. That's the B-side to Manitou. So I mean, and then it's like if you were a Venom collector, you had to go all over the place to try to get all these singles and stuff. And I got most of them. There's still quite a few I don't have,
All the
but
shaped picture discs and
shit
all of
ton.
that. There's so
Yeah,
many of
all
those.
kinds of stuff.
Isn't there? Am I wrong, or didn't SST Records put out a record that just had Kronos's stage raps from that L'Amour show?
Probably.
I could swear I read somewhere that someone put that out.
It probably was SST because then
Well, they were
Venom
playing,
did shows with like Saint Vitus
yeah,
and Black Flag
the,
and those guys.
the Black Flag, yeah. And Rollins said that he's like, oh man, I really love Venom until we play with him, and then that asshole Cronus, man, he's like just soured me to Venom. He's like
Yeah.
he was such an asshole. So I'm
That's
sure
that
if
famous
SST put that
flyer
out.
with Kronos with like the cigar and the top hat, and isn't he like flipping off and Black Flag's on that flyer? There was a
Yeah,
story behind
yeah,
that one too, if I remember right. But
yeah.
so
That was one of the shows we could have gone to. It was I think it was a weeknight, and it came to City Gardens in Trenton, New Jersey. And we were going to go, but couldn't do it.
I've
Couldn't
got the
swing it.
worst story with seeing Venom live. They played shit. I don't even remember what Milwaukee Metal Fest it was up to. I think it was either 98 or 99. And at that point, I was really, really into Cradle of Filth. And this was like their very first show on North American soil was at this Metal Fest. And Venom was headlining. And it was like the reunion of the original three. Well, me and my buddy, we had the brilliant idea. We went out the night before and got just obliterated. So it was like the hangover of the century the next day. So like all day, we're like, oh, we even gonna go, man? And we were like, oh, we gotta see Cradle of Filth, dude. We gotta go. We gotta go. So we got there like super late. You know, you miss like pretty much everybody. We found a seat up in the balcony, watched Cradle of Filth, and then there was a lengthy changeover getting to Venom, and we were both like just fucking suffering. And we're looking at each other like, you want to stay? I'll go if you want to go. I'm cool, man. You want to go? If you want to stay, I'll do whatever you want. You know, it was that back and forth shit. And
Concert hangover chicken.
oh, it was terrible. I think we stayed for like half the first song and then we bailed. And I've regretted it ever since. I was like, that was stupid. That was dumb, but it's what you do. So,
Yeah, I don't even remember them coming around. I mean, they probably did. Because I think that that Cradle of Filth, it was the second Cradle of Filth album. I forget the name of it. I wasn't really into Cradle of Filth
Dusk in
that
Her
much. I mean,
Embrace.
I what was it?
Dusk
Beauty
in
and
Her
the
Embrace.
Dusk in Her Embrace, yeah. Because the first one was The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then they
so
had that
Dusk in Her
vampire
Embrace was the
EP.
second one.
Yep.
Yeah, and that came out around the same, I think it came out around the same time that Cast in Stone came out.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about Cast in Stone was not so much the new material that they put together, but they redid classic songs. It was like a bonus CD, and that stuff was
Yeah.
pretty good. It
Yeah.
was cool hearing. It was like played a little bit better. It was recorded better, so that was kind of cool to have.
Yeah.
And I never
Definitely.
got Resurrected, the album that came out after that, but it just didn't look very interesting to me, and I wasn't really into Cast in Stone, so I didn't get Resurrected. But a lot of people say I still haven't heard it to this day. A lot of people say it's really good, but I wouldn't know because I never got it.
Yeah. There's a couple of those later day ones I spent very little time with. You know, it's kind of sad too that they're all in a real, I don't want to say public, but you know, the legal battles amongst the members are pretty intense right now. I just watched a really good interview with Abaddon, and it sounds like him and Mantis are going to do a couple of shows here and there together. I know Abaddon's been, you know, going through some pretty good health problems, cancer
I thought
and
Cancer,
Mantis
whatnot.
I
was
think.
sick too, isn't he?
Yeah, he was. I guess he's
Heart issues.
pretty
Yeah, he had a
recovered.
heart
Yeah.
attack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Abaddon he had cancer, and I think he's on the tail end of the treatment and everything. But those two are on talking terms. But I guess there's still quite a few court appearances. And Abaddon's like, yeah, Kronos' attorney slapped like this 600-page, you know, thing I have to go through, and I don't know. It just, you know, I hear
I
stuff like
think that
that, and
yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean, how much money could be at stake possibly? I mean, it's like
Exactly.
none of them
yeah,
millionaires. I mean, but I know that they're battling it out with Tony Dolan too. They were on the outs. Abaddon and Manis were not getting along with Tony Dolan, Demolition Man.
Demolition
So
Man.
they don't
Yep.
even have a singer. They should just figure out what they can do with Cronus and just do like a back to the beginning Venom thing in Newcastle, England.
I think
You
that's
know,
the
I mean,
that was the guts of that interview. They kind of brought it or compared
they
it
should
to the
just
back
do
to the
it.
beginning. Yeah, but I guess the legalities are, and Kronos is like, it's done, ship sailed. This is how it's going to be, and yeah, it's a lot of litigation.
That's
So
stupid. That
I think so
sucks.
too.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you guys this, related to obviously related to Venom. Uh, I feel like there's certain bands that maybe it's just where I grew up or the people that I hung out with or whatever. I feel like though that when the history of thrash is kind of told, I feel like there are some bands that kind of get left out of the mix. And I don't know if it's because they ended up bands like Venom and Celtic Frost specifically. When I was a kid, like we considered all that thrash, and
Yeah.
obviously Venom predated,
Mhm.
those bands. Um, but do you guys think because of the influence Venom and Celtic Frost, for example, had on death metal and black metal, that they kind of get left out of the conversation when it comes to thrash a little bit?
Yeah,
I
for
know Celtic Frost got a little bit avant garde, and Venom's a little bit raw, maybe, compared to what came after. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that.
yeah, I would say definitely because, So the Big Four, that show was when was it? 2000, was it 2007, something like that? But if you were to take the Big Four at really the height, I mean, when that Big Four thing came out, it was kind of like thrash metal wasn't really as important. It was like kind of a retrospective thing. But if you did a Big Four at the time that thrash was really relevant, definitely Venom would have had to have been a part of that. I would say it would have been Metallica, um, circa 19. Let's say the Big Four came out in 1984. Venom would have headlined, uh, Metallica, Slayer, um, probably Exodus. Like, no, but because 84 would have been before Bonded by Blood came out. Uh, Gosh, I mean, maybe it would have been Anthrax, but it would have been Anthrax with Neil Turbin because it would have been before Joey Belladonna joined. That would have been pretty
Hmm.
cool. But I mean, what other thrash bands were there really? I mean, Celtic Frost, I guess. And you're right, Butch. I mean, they were thrashy. We lumped them. And we even put Armored Saint. When we're talking about thrash. We're like Armored Saint, Merciful Fate,
Mm-hmm.
Celtic Frost. The criteria was pretty wide. Anything that was like on certain labels was basically thrash metal.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way doom metal became. Like you had bands that sound like ZZ Top, and people were calling them doom
Yeah,
because they were on a certain label because they by association.
they got
Kind of like
orange amps. It must be Doom.
Right.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, if you were to take a really relevant Big Four, I definitely think Venom, possibly Celtic Frost, but definitely Venom. I mean, even on like the back cover of Kill 'Em All, Kirk Hammett's wearing a Venom button,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't really notice at the time, or I just didn't really care at that particular point in time. Um, but yeah, I mean, they were right there. I mean, they were thrash. They were thrash as much as anybody.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah, they were speedy. So I agree with that. I would definitely put them in there. Um, yeah, Anthrax is kind of a wild card for me. I mean, I'm trying to think of who else would have been a worthy contender to be in there at the time. Like you said, I was going to say Exodus too, but for the same reason, Darren. But
Motorhead, Motorhead,
yeah,
maybe
that's the other one I'm thinking.
84, because that was around No Remorse, and
Yep,
Motorhead were definitely that was a tour with Exciter and Merciful
Merciful
Fate,
Fate.
Motorhead,
Yep, yep,
so they could have been Big Four.
sure.
Motorhead, oh man, what a killer show that would have been.
Can you imagine?
Motorhead, Venom, Slayer, and Metallica
Metallica
in some order. Yeah.
in a parallel universe somewhere. That's happening.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words on the Great Venom, or have we said it all? We've left it all on the table.
You said it all.
You're gonna make me cry.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I've been getting a little. It's been tugging at my heart a little bit. Every time you post something, I'm like I get a little bit welled up.
Yeah, it still
Still,
stings.
yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things I just need to. Well, I mean, Kathy and I have been watching. Kathy's been probably more into like retro Ozzy than I have. She's really been into us watching Jack and Ozzy's World Detour, which is a great show. Do you ever watch that? You guys?
I've no, I've
No,
not
I
seen
have to
that.
watch that.
Oh, it's really good. For a couple of reasons. One, it's actually pretty educational. They go to historic sites or places where there's a really big historical relevance. They went to Mount Rushmore. Um, where they went to the Alamo, which was a funny episode for obvious reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
But watching Ozzy and Jack interact is like it's really cool. I mean, so it's entertaining on a couple. They're funny, but it's also cool because the father and son and they're bonding. They're going on these trips to these places, and they're both history nerds. And so we're watching that, and then we're watching the Osbournes when we get a little bit burned down on Ozzy and Jack's World Detour. We watch some Osbournes. Of course, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then listening to the stuff, and if you're on social media, it's like social media. At least our social media is all about Ozzy and
Hmm.
Sabbath. and it's cool because I didn't really see it coming. I knew that Ozzy's death was going to make an impact, but I didn't know it was going to be this significant. I mean, I think this is, I mean, and everybody's coming out of the woodwork. People are like country stars and are doing
Sure.
uh, tributes to Ozzy, and a lot of people that you wouldn't expect are coming out and saying nice things about Ozzy. I mean, he really, for as crazy as he was and kind of taboo, when we're
Right.
talking about it, it kind of brings it into the Venom thing. How Venom was like the next level from Ozzy because Ozzy, Mr. Crowley, and
Sure.
I mean, Ozzy was at the time. I mean, the Blizzard of Oz album cover had like he's holding the cross, and there's a
Scary
Hmm.
shit again.
Yeah.
know,
Scared
Yeah.
me to death.
yeah, because it's kind of creepy. It's like, but it more suggestive. It wasn't over the top. But whatever came, because that was done, whatever came out afterward had to be more literal. It had to be something that
It pushed the bar.
left less to the imagination. That's where Venom came in.
Hmm.
But getting back to the Ozzy thing, but when Ozzy for me is like 1980, 1980, 81 to 85. By 1985, I saw I saw Ozzy and Metallica, and I left there. I was just thoroughly disgusted with Ozzy. He was forgetting the lyrics. He looked ridiculous. I mean, it was just a weak performance. And Metallica were just on fire. It was awesome. So by 86, 80, 85, 86, I was all about thrash. I was Venom, Metallica, Slayer, whatever. And I still would listen to commercial metal to a degree, but I just wouldn't really spend that much time on it because I'd already gotten past it. It's like that
Sure.
served its purpose at the time until I got to this point, and you really can't go back. Now, at my age, I mean, it's all retrospective. So I mean, I listen to anything. I'll put on Hurricane, and then I'm listening to like, oh, I don't know, Marduk or something. It's like I'm all over the
Right.
place. As long as it's metal, it's cool with me.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like, but it was weird that all these people were coming out and paying homage to Ozzy that you would think wouldn't have had anything to do with him, because of the way his reputation was in the early
Yeah.
'80s. But somewhere along the way, '90s into the 2000s, he really redeemed himself and he became a really endearing icon in music in general. And I think that's great. I think he deserves it. Don't ask me why, because he never wrote a song, but he had a certain quality. And I think, if no other reason, that I think he deserves it because he made so many of us who were fans, uh, that music that he was a part of and that voice was like the soundtrack to our lives. I
Yeah.
said it when we did that dudes talking metal,
Yep.
teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and most of my
Yeah.
50s. Ozzy's always there. Some albums I like more than others, but there he was. It was Ozzy, and we always, I guess, like we do very often, we take for granted the people that we feel like. I kind of took Dio for granted, I wouldn't get the new Dio. I'm like, I'm not really into the new Dio
Sure.
sound. I'll wait. And then all of a sudden, Dio was gone, and now I want
Yeah.
to hear those albums really badly because there's nothing. There's not going to be anything
Right.
else. And I'm going to
Yep.
get that way with Ozzy too. I'm going to go back and listen to Black Rain or
Right.
Scream and be like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, it's not, but because you're not going to get any more, you have an appreciation for this. So yeah, I mean, the whole Ozzy thing, ever since it happened, was the 22nd of July. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's like it's still yeah, it's still pretty fresh, I guess, in a way. But
I think just the
it is
simple
cool that
fact that,
everybody's
sorry, Darren, I
yeah,
just say that the simple fact that random billboards have popped up across the country in
Hmm.
random cities, saying, thank you or whatever, just proves the point that Ozzy transcended just being a musical icon, but like a true cultural icon.
yeah, yeah.
And you
Who'd have
don't
thought?
see that happen too often. It's,
Yeah. There,
at
yeah.
that level.
Yeah. There are certain artists that, you know, uh, let's be honest. I mean, I love Ronnie James Dio. He's my favorite vocalist of all time. I love his music, from Rainbow to Elf to Sabbath and his solo stuff. But I think there's some artists that their influence doesn't ever manage to get too far outside the borders of what they do.
Right.
But Ozzy is one of those guys, like, and I think Kiss kind of falls into this too. That and Van Halen, um, if you're of a certain age, you grew up with these artists, and not everyone's talent level, like Ozzy, would have had an influence on. It's like people, there's been a lot of Gen X is, Gen X is upset right now. Let us have our moment, kind of thing. Well, if you're in that age group, though, you couldn't escape the influence he had. Like, it was beyond there were all the stories and stuff that we had fun. He'd do something crazy, like take a piss at the Alamo, and people would talk about it. He was just like had that over the top personality, and you grew up with him. And but like as you're growing up, like not, people were into Ozzy that didn't have the talent to go into metal or something. Like someone like Garth Brooks, for example, being a Kiss fan, like
Right.
he wasn't going to play metal. And Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, like loves Van Halen and loves metal, but Billy Corgan's another one. Like he doesn't have the, like, not that some of their stuff isn't heavy in a way, but it's like he could never play like straight up. He wasn't going to play straight up metal. So, and then I'm sure there's actors. It's what, all these people coming out now that were like Ozzy fans. It just goes to show you like just the effect he had on
Yeah.
so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool that and people are acknowledging it. They're not afraid. Like a lot of times, people at a certain level of professionalism, it may not be appropriate or it may not be cool
Yeah.
to say, oh, as a teenager, I listened to heavy metal. Um, Not to get political, but JD Vance was listening to Voivod and Testament, so whatever, not to be political, but you have figures in society now that are obviously probably not the type of people that you would think have a foundation in this kind of music are
Sure.
coming out because they're grieving like everybody else. Like, yeah, when I was 16, I loved Ozzy and I had a lot of good experiences, regardless of whatever their purpose in life is now. We all can bond together,
Yeah.
even through different ideologies. We can always. Then that's the thing about music. It's like that's one thing that will always unify people. Music.
Yeah.
We can. The people that love it. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is that you connect with this music, and if you find someone else that connects with it, you're like there's a bond.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that's happening now. It's like, and it's cool because there's so many things that separate people now, and there's so much um what's the word I'm looking for? Diversion. There's so many things that separate people, but unfortunately, it took Ozzy's passing for people to kind of come together on this one thing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And I mean, look realistically. I mean, 76 years old. I mean, it's amazing Ozzy made it this long.
Dude.
I mean, I think Piers Morgan said that he was talking to Ozzy or something to the effect where if he had said, "Hey Oz, you're going to live until 76," Ozzy would have said, "I'll take it." When he was like 30 or something like that. Because I mean, who would have? And it's very honorable. I mean, of course, it's not good that he died in pain. Obviously, he was he had this.
Yeah, he
It
was
wasn't really the
suffering.
Parkinson's that killed him. It was that quad, or no, it wasn't even a quad accident. It was the fall that he took in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That was what really jacked him up.
And then the
And
subsequent
so,
surgery did not really go
yeah,
according to
yeah,
plan.
yeah. So I mean, he died natural causes, basically. I mean, you would think, oh, this crazy out of control rock star snorting ants and all this other crazy stuff that he did. Of course, he's going to die from a drug overdose or something. Well, he didn't. He
Yeah.
got himself reasonably straightened out. Seemed to be a pretty good family man. I mean, you could just tell by the way his family reacted. I mean, that sincere.
Oh,
I mean, it was
very.
like,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
That funeral procession, that was, yeah,
man,
that tugged at you a little bit.
they
That was,
loved him. They
yeah,
loved him, and by all indications, and you look at these shows, I mean, he loved them too.
yeah.
So people, that really resonates with people, I think.
yeah, I think I hope people I get it, man, when you talk about Sharon Osbourne, we're getting off into like where we could have like different shows, but like just real quick, the
It's okay.
just to jump on that point, like I don't care who you are, I don't care what you think of the deals that she made or how much she busted balls and stuff. You cannot there are two images that I'll remember over the last month. One is when I was watching the videos of the concert in Birmingham, and there was a shot of Ozzy playing live, and you could see like all the people in the wings watching him perform from there, and Sharon sitting on the stage just watching
Yeah,
him, like, and you could
Yeah.
just between that and she's just like watching her husband and glowing like to watch him do this, to be there to support him,
Is
and
that the
then to
photo that's
see
kind of taken like over her shoulder a
yeah,
little bit?
yeah. I
well,
saw it a
there's
couple
one like
times
that,
today.
but yeah, the view that I had is from the just watching it, like
More from the
seeing
front?
people on
Okay.
the side, like her from the front,
Yeah. Yeah.
the over on this, she's on this, stage right or whatever, sitting in the wings,
Yeah.
watching them, and just kind of like you could see the glow about her. And then at during the video of the procession that I saw, just a family like her, just it's like really tugs at your heart to see it.
Oh
And
my
if you,
God,
I
yeah.
mean, you have to if you know nothing else, like other than the deals and stuff, all you have to do is watch that to know she's just trying, her beyond her job. Like her goal in life was to keep him,
Yeah.
you know, alive and healthy and be there for him, and that's what she
Right.
did.
And nobody knows really unless you were in the room or unless you were part of these situations. Like, okay, so Sharon met Ozzy because she was sent there basically on a mission by her father or her brother to keep an eye on him, make sure he's making it to the studio, make sure he's getting a band together because he was on salary, make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. Like crazy Ozzy, he might end up who knows where. You got to keep tabs on him. So then she started hanging out at the studio, and Ozzy's first wife was there too. But I mean, I guess there was something that transpired. I mean, I've kind of turned a corner with Sharon. When you see that there's obviously a lot of raw emotion, and she really loved him. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
obvious. You can just
there's
Hmm.
no
see, and
doubt.
likewise, he loved her.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a love story there, and that's not necessarily what I would like to see in a biopic, but maybe that is the most important thing. There's a lot of events that happen that I'm more interested in, but maybe that is central to the plot. Because do I think that Ozzy would have rallied in some capacity? Yeah, I think he would have rallied, but I'm pretty damn sure that he wouldn't have had as long a career if it wasn't for her and her determination and her pushing him. I mean, he had talent and that voice. I mean, and he could figure out these melodies. I mean,
Hmm.
I love Ozzy's voice. Is it a good voice and like a Bruce Dickinson, Ronnie James Dio, Freddie Mercury? Absolutely not. But it
It's
has
unique as
its
hell, man.
own,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Richie Blackmore came out and said he loved Ozzy's voice and had a
Yeah.
very soothing, um, easy on the ears, and he really liked the melodies that Ozzy. And Richie Blackmore, he didn't really pay anybody compliments. I mean, he's a miserable person,
Yeah.
but he had nice things to say about Ozzy. And also Gene Simmons, man, I'm surprised by that. There's like three
Yeah.
different interviews when Gene Simmons is extremely relevant.
Yeah.
He said, Kiss had the gimmick in this. He's like, but Ozzy just was Ozzy. There was nothing pre-planned about it.
Yep.
He was just doing what he did, and people liked it, and that's what people liked was the
That first
Ozzy's
interview,
personality on stage, and,
that first interview
and
they did
Gene
with
Simmons is
Gene.
really,
Yeah.
really
He
reverent.
was shaking during that interview too. I remember I stumbled across that. I wasn't even expecting it. I was like, oh, they're interviewing Gene about it. He got about halfway through and you could tell he was starting to get kind of shaken over the whole thing. And it was very
Yeah,
genuine statements that he was making about Ozzy. But I thought the exact same thing too. I was like, Gene's always about Gene and money and this and that, but he was very respectful about Ozzy's passing, and I thought everything he said was very genuine and heartfelt.
Yeah, and I think he was sincere because he makes a lot of good points. He's like, Ozzy just he he wasn't trying. Nothing was like choreographed. Nothing seemed to be
No,
planned out.
Yeah,
no
Like we talked
pretense.
about on the one episode of the Dudes Talking Metal. When Ozzy was on stage, I mean, he just went spastic. He didn't know what to. He didn't. It wasn't dancing. He wasn't doing anything. He was just like going crazy with the music.
yeah,
But it was endearing because people knew that that was real.
yeah,
It wasn't like some kind of contrived thing where the band, like where you might see Judas Priest like synchronized guitar
sure,
swings and things like
Hmm.
that. Oh, okay, you guys worked this out beforehand. There was nothing about that with Black Sabbath. It was just raw and it was like in the moment. And yeah, but so Gene Simmons said, there was nobody that Ozzy modeled himself after.
yeah,
It was just Ozzy. He was the first, and well, he may not be the last, but he was the first of a dying breed.
hmm,
And anybody that does what Ozzy does from this point on is imitating Ozzy, and you'll know it right away because that's what Ozzy did.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then Gene, I was really impressed with the fact that Gene would stop talking about Gene
exactly, yeah,
for once and give someone else credit. Well, that was pretty cool.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
Definitely.
All right, gentlemen.
Oh man.
Well, Darren, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. We need to
Yeah,
have you
Darren.
on more
Always
often.
great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see you guys. Just
We'll,
shooting the shit.
yeah, yeah, we'll get you on
Let's
again
talk
for
about
sure.
we'll have to talk about something else next time. We talk
Let's
about
talk about another band that Butch never listened to.
yeah, the Celtic
Let's
Frost.
talk
Do the
about
Celtic
something
Frost.
the third person too. Yeah, talk about something the third person. See?
The death metal episode.
Yeah,
Butch,
Butch
you
There
never
go
we,
listened.
first.
I
yeah.
never liked Possessed. See?
That's the next topic.
Seven churches. Discuss. See?
Butch, you go first.
Oh, that'd be a
All right,
rough one
guys.
for me. All right, gentlemen.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts. We always love those comments. Like, share, subscribe.
Please subscribe. Tell your
Yeah.
friends. Tell your friends about
Tell your
us.
friends about
Tell your
us,
friends about us.
especially Vinnie
Yeah, and keep the
Vincent.
comments civil. Let's try not to be keyboard warriors for Christ's sake. I mean, go out and I don't know, throw rocks at cars or something, but don't hit YouTube
Yeah.
so hard, man. It's gonna be okay. Go upstairs and crawl in bed with mommy and daddy, and they'll coddle you.
There you
You don't
go.
need to take it out on YouTube. Take it easy.
Pour a nice warm glass of milk and just
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the very next
All right.
episode of
For the
For the
sake
Sake
of
of Heaviness.
heaviness.
Thanks again, Darren.
Yeah, it was
Thanks,
a
man.
pleasure. It's a lot of fun.